And so take it away, Linda.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all here today. Anyway, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just fine.
So, just wanted to welcome you all on this pleasant afternoon and looking forward to Steve's lecture. But before we get started with Steve's lecture and his introduction, Sharon's going to share with us a little bit of information on upcoming events. Take it away, Sharon.
Oh, thank you for blindsiding me, Linda. Thank you very much. I want to let everybody know that 2 weeks from today is our annual unit meeting at the BCA. We'll be talking over various topics, one of which is the slate of candidates for the upcoming board elections and how the elections are going to work. It should be about a 30-minute meeting before the game, and the good news is that everybody who attends the meeting gets a free play, so y'all come out.
Yay. That is good. Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
anyway, we know who Steve is, and we've been looking forward to this lecture. I'm at the Bridge Center right now and getting great reception, so I'm looking forward to using his information in our game today. So Steve's going to share with us how to improve our slam bidding. So without further ado, Steve Wood. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I hope I didn't overwhelm everybody with the length of the information. I started out writing down some notes and all of a sudden I had 15 pages. So hope you forgive me for that.
Steve, can you turn on your video, please?
Oh, where do I do that?
Down at the, usually it's the left bottom to start video. So
Start video. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that it? Okay.
That's it.
All right. Okay. So anyway, I kind of came to this topic from playing a lot on Bridge Base Online. And if you've played any on BBO, you know that you're playing against players of all sorts and from all sorts of countries and whatnot. And so you see a lot of different bidding styles and things that happen. And I started noticing some things about slam bidding that, or I should say, missing slams, things that people did that got in the way of getting to slam contracts. And so that's really what I'm focusing on in today's topic. So the idea is, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but for me, when I'm playing, you know, if my partner and I can cooperatively bid to a slam that makes, you know, that's a lot of fun. And so I like to cultivate anything that will make that happen more often. Here's some, let's talk about some do's and don'ts. The first one, as you see on page 1, is don't jump to game too early. And you see this all the time. Somebody in whatever framework it is gets impatient and just jumps to game. And then there's their poor partner over there trying to figure out what the bidding means. Now, if my partner opens 1 spade and I jump to 4 spades, that's a preempt. If my partner overcalls a spade and I jump to 4 spades, that's a preempt. I'm saying that I've got really good support. I don't have a lot of high cards. I've got a little shape and I'm not particularly interested in slam. And that's what the bid, that's the kind of hand you should do it on. Now, what happens though, is that people get impatient and jump to game on other hands that would be suitable for slam.
Okay.
All right, so basically, if I had to boil this down, I would say this. In a constructive bidding situation, make a bid that describes your hand. So your partner is involved and your partner can participate. If he or she has the right hand to take further action. If it's a competitive situation that may involve a decision at a high level, it's doubly important to describe your hand, because all of a sudden the opponent, you're at 4 spades and the opponents come in and bid 5 diamonds or whatever the case may be. And you and your partner have to figure out what to do. Do you take the push to 5? Do you double them? What do you do? And if you haven't described your hand to your partner, then you're on very shaky ground in trying to decide what to do. And so is your partner, because he doesn't know what you have. Now, if you look at example 1 there at the bottom of the page, that's a perfect example. You've got 9 high card points, you've got a singleton, you've got a king on the side, and you've got beautiful trump support. Okay, so your partner opens a spade, and on BBO for sure, you would get 90% of the players would bid 4 spades on this hand. And that, to me, this is just an incorrect bid because the hand is so strong. And it doesn't take much for your partner to have enough to go with this hand to make a slam. So don't jump to 4 spades on a hand like this. James, if you turn the page, the answer on this one is to make a splinter bid if you play splinters to 4 clubs, showing that you have game going values and a singleton club. And that way partner now can look at his or her hand and figure out what to do. In the second paragraph there on page 2, it gives you the hand that partner actually held at the table. And you can see that 6 spades is cold, but it's not, you can't get there unless you make a bid as a responder that describes your hand. Okay, now let's look. I'm going to buzz through the first part of this quickly because the meat of this presentation is at the end. All right, so let's look at some other situations where people jump to game too early. This next one, Jacoby 2 no trump auctions, is something that happens all the time. I hear this auction: 1 spade, 2 no trump, Jacoby. An opener doesn't have a singleton or a void, because you would show that if you had that. And so they count their points and say, well, I've only got 12 to 14, so I'm going to jump to 4 spades. All right. Well, there's a problem with that. If you jump to 4 spades, it's very hard for the 2 no trump bidder to take further action unless he or she has a very, very strong hand. So if you have a hand that has slam potential, even though the points may not add up to that much, if you have a hand that has slam potential, you shouldn't jump to 4 spades. All right. Now, here's a perfect example at the bottom of the page. All right. You see, example, you open 1 heart and you've got this very ragged 13-point hand. Now, that's a hand that doesn't have very good slam potential and it's dead minimum. That's the hand to jump to game. You've got queens. You don't have aces. Your shape is poor. Everything about your hand is slow. When you have a hand like that, that's when you jump to 4 hearts. And what you're basically doing is you're giving partner a warning and saying, okay, look, I know you have a good hand, but if you want to go further, I'm just telling you, my hand isn't very suitable. That's the purpose of the 4 heart bid or the 4 spade bid. It's not to count your points and say, well, I only have 12 to 14. No, that's not how you do it. You judge your hand, you evaluate your hand. And if you've got a slow, not very slam oriented hand, that's when you jump. Otherwise, what you should be doing is bidding 3 hearts. Well, whatever the suit is, let's say it's spades. Bid 3 spades or perhaps 3 no trump. And people have different meanings for those bids, but they don't show shortness, but they show some optimism about slam. All right, at the top of page 3, there's an example hand. Okay, on this hand, you open a spade. Partner jumps to 2 no trump. And the question is, what do you bid? Okay, now this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you look at that hand, it's got 13 high card points. So you could be tempted to say, well, I only have 13 points, so I better jump to game and say that. But wait a minute. You have 13 points, but look at the quality of the points. You have an ace king on the side. It's even an ace king 10 4-card suit that may have potential. You've got beautiful trumps and you've got 2 doubletons. So this is not a hand to warn partner about. This is a hand to give partner a chance. So I would bid on this hand, I would bid 3 spades or 3 no trump, depending on what your partnership's agreements are about those 2 bids. No shortness, but an optimistic hand. If you think about it this way, if partner is thinking slam, you don't want to cut off that conversation. Your hand is perfectly adequate to cooperate towards slam. So don't cut partner off by jumping to 4. Bid 3 or bid 3 no trump and leave the door open to partner. And I can't tell you how often this comes up. And I see it all the time. And then all of a sudden you stop in 4 and 6 is cold because the 4-level jump got in the way and stopped the conversation too early. All right, now I'm not going to go into detail about these other ones, but other examples at the bottom of page 3, situations after partner's overcall. Partner overcalls a spade. If you jump to 4 spades, you have a preemptive hand. If you have an opening hand with good spades, then you Q bid to tell partner that. Now you might say, well, what difference does it make? You're going to get to 4 spades either way. There are opponents at the table. The opponents don't have to let you play 4 spades. The opponents might compete. And if they compete, how in the world will you know what to do over that bid if you haven't told your partner what your hand looks like? If you've jumped to 4 and you have opening values, how is partner going to know whether to double, whether to bid 5, whatever? So it's important to describe your hand, because the auction could suddenly get competitive. And now you've got a chance, if you've described your hand, to make the right decision. If you just jump to 4 with an opening hand and support for partner's overcall, and they bid 5, whatever, then you're just guessing. And the surest way to lose is to get stuck guessing at the 5 level. All right, now another situation is as a passed hand. You pass and partner opens a spade. And here you are you almost opened yourself and you've got 4 spades to the king. And so you say, oh, great, I'm going to jump to game. Well, there's 2 problems with that. First of all, partner might have opened light and you don't belong in game. And the second thing is you haven't told partner that you have a good hand. And maybe he's over there with a hand that almost was worth a 2 club opener. All right. So the sensible thing to do is don't get impatient. Make your jury bid to tell partner, hey, I have almost an opening hand and I have support for you, and let nature take its course. So that's another situation where it doesn't pay to get impatient and jump to game too early. Okay, now on page 5, this is where I discuss using 2/1 game forcing to your advantage. And this is kind of a cousin of what we've just been talking about. 2/1 has a very distinct advantage that people don't use to the fullest. The advantage is that you can set trumps in a game force below the game level, and it leaves and a level of bidding where you can explore slam. Now, we're going to talk about how to do that at the end of this talk, but that's one of the key advantages of 2/1. But you have to bid correctly in order to take advantage of that. And one of the things you can't do or shouldn't do is short circuit things by jumping to game in a 2/1 game force auction, unless that's the right description of your hand. Now let's look at example 4, because this one came up about 3 weeks ago on BBO, and I was playing against Lewis Sacker, and I were playing against 2 expert level players. They were good players. And here was their auction. So the responder had the hand that you see there on example 4. And his partner opened 1 heart. So he bid 2 clubs. And his partner raised him to 3 clubs. Now the question is, what are you supposed to bid now? Now, this is a critical hand for 2/1 bidders. So often, I see players get excited and they say, well, okay, I've got opening count, I've got a good hand, and I've got support, so I'm going to jump to game. Well, wait a minute. You're in a game force. You're always going to get to game. Partner's never going to stop below game. So after 3 clubs, if you bid 3 hearts, partner's never going to pass that. You're in a game force. So there's no harm in bidding 3 hearts, and it leaves bidding space to talk about slam. So only when you have a bare minimum slow 2 club response with heart support should you now jump to 4 hearts. If you jump to 4 hearts, it's like that Jacoby thing I mentioned earlier. You're kind of issuing a warning to partner. Okay, we've got enough for game, but my hand doesn't look that great for slam. Only a small slice of the hands, a small percentage of the hands would fit in that category. Most of the time, when you have heart support as responder like this hand, you just bid 3 hearts and you see what happens. You have now the entire, the rest of the 3 level, a 3 spade bid, and 4 clubs and 4 diamonds available as bids to discuss the possibility of slam. Now on this hand, the person jumped to 4 hearts prematurely with 16 points. The other person, at the bottom of the page, I show you what his hand was. He had 15 points. But when his partner jumped to 4, he figured his partner had about 12 points. So he said, I got 15 opposite 12. That's not going to get there. So he passed, and then they missed a cold slam. And that's because the 4 heart bid was too early. Okay, now, again, not to belabor this stuff, on page 6, you'll see some examples of 2/1 game force auctions that, that come up all the time where you can explore slam. Example 5 is a good one. I'm not going to go into it specifically, but it's another example of where you don't need to be jumping around in a game force auction. Okay, now let's go to page 7. And this information here may be stuff you've seen before. It may be stuff that you learned when you were learning about Blackwood and kind of forgot. Okay, but because I see it forgotten a lot. Okay, but the main thing I want to say about this is that there is nothing in the rules of bridge that requires anybody to ask for aces or key cards before they bid a slam. You only do that if the answer to your question is going to help you. Okay. If you have a void and you ask your partner for how many aces he has or how many key cards he has, how do you know that one of those aces or key cards isn't in your void or is in your void? So if you have a void, you're not asking the right question, because the answer is just going to be a number, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, that doesn't solve your problem. So it's usually wrong to use Blackwood with a void. It's also, in the middle of page 8, dangerous to use Blackwood with 2 losers in a side suit. And that's because sometimes the opponents, and believe me, they're listening to your auction. And if there's a side suit where you have two quick losers, and particularly if it's the unbid suit, they're going to cash them. So asking partner how many aces he has may not solve your problem if you have 2 quick losers in the side suit. You may want to take an approach that tells you where partner has his important cards. And you can learn whether perhaps you have 2 quick losers. And once you learn that, you can stop in game. Okay, now the next information on page 8, 9, and top of 10, those are situations where 4-no trump isn't Blackwood. Get used to the idea in optimal bidding that 4-no trump is not automatically Blackwood. It should be Blackwood when you have a fit and you know what trumps are. Otherwise, 4-no trump is something else. A lot of times it's just a general slam try, like 1-no, 4-no. If I open 1-no and you say 4-no, that's not Blackwood. That's quantitative, invitational. And I get to look at my hand and decide whether I'm minimum or maximum, and I can carry on to slam or not. That's the kind of quantitative bid I'm talking about. But that's the simplest example, but there are many situations that are analogous to that, where 4-no trump isn't Blackwood. And rather than go through all of those, I'll just let you read about it. And if there's one of those that you're still scratching your head and saying, what's he talking about? Well, send me an email and I'll sort it out for you. Okay. And similarly, on page 10, there are lots of situations where 4-no trump simply shows a 2-suiter. If I'm playing with James and James opens 4 spades, I'm playing against James, and James opens 4 spades to my right, and it's my bid, and I bid 4-no trump, that's not Blackwood. That's me having 2 suits, telling my partner that I have 2 suits, ostensibly the minors, and I'm trying to find a fit at the 5 level. There are lots of times when 4-no trump shows a 2-suiter. So anyway, just get used to the idea of learning when 4-no trump is Blackwood and when it's not. Okay, now the fun part. That starts on page 11, and this is about using control bids to get partners' opinion about slam. We talked earlier about not using Blackwood with a void, not using Blackwood when you have two quick losers in the side suit. But this information here, if this is new information to you, this will improve your game by leaps and bounds. So I'm hopeful that I can make this make some sense. Okay, first of all, what's a control bid? Okay, a control bid is a bid in a new suit after we've established a fit. So let's say we've agreed that spades are trump, and all of a sudden somebody hauls off and bids 4 clubs. Okay, first of all, it's not Gerber. Okay, Gerber is only after no trump. 4 clubs in this situation is not trying to make clubs trump either. It's saying, okay, I've got a control in clubs and I'm interested in slam. What do you think, partner? That's the main purpose of a control bid. It opens the discussion. The initial control bid opens the discussion about slam. It's just an invitation. It's just throwing it out on the table. Hey, maybe we should think about slam. What do you think? Okay. Now, in the middle of the page, top of the page 12, I left something out. I said there are 3 things that a control bid does, but there's really 4. The first one is it shows a control. Second thing is it expresses interest. Those are the 2 things I just mentioned. The third thing is it seeks to find out partner's opinion. Okay. And the fourth thing is it helps you figure out where partner's key cards are. Now I'm going to add that to the paper. And so when we're done with this, you'll see an amended version after a while on the website, and it'll be more up to date and it'll include that. So there's really 4 things that a control bid does. Now, if you use these bids, then you can have a conversation that will allow both the partners to either say yes or no to the slam suggestion, and it'll allow you to find out where your controls are. Now, the best approach when you're control bidding is well, wait a minute, I left out something here. First of all, what is a control for control bidding purposes? And in the middle of the page, I point out that on page 12, that some people think the control should be must be an ace. And I can't really quarrel with that, but it becomes very, very hard. It's a very inflexible way to look at it, and it becomes very, very hard to have convenient queue bidding or control bidding. Some people allow it to be an ace or a void, and that's a little bit better. But most experts, if you watch experts play, if you watch on ViewGraph, or if you watch the best players play, their control bids are very flexible, and they could be an ace or a king, especially the king of partner's side suit. They could also be a void, or they could be a singleton. So there's lots of holdings that qualify as a control. But one thing that doesn't qualify as a control is if you have a void in your partner's side suit, you don't control bid that, because he's going to think you have the ace and that he's got this wonderful suit now, and then you're going to disappoint him because you have the void. So my partners and most experts play, if you don't use a control bid of a singleton or a void in partner's suit, partner's main side suit. Okay, now how do you use these things? Well, the best approach is you bid them up the line. So you bid the cheapest one you have, regardless of whether it's an ace or a king. So if you have, let's say, spades or trump, if you have the ace of clubs, the king of clubs, a void in clubs, or a singleton club, you want to make a control bid, you bid 4 clubs. Okay. Now let's say you didn't have anything in clubs, you bid 4 diamonds. So partner, here's your bid 4 diamonds. The first thing partner knows now is that you don't have a control in clubs. If she doesn't have a control in clubs either, guess what she's going to do? Shut the bidding down right now in game, because you're off the ace and the king of clubs. And you're going to lose 2 tricks. You can't make a slam, and that's the end of that. So that's how you solve the problem of Blackwood when you're off the ace and the king of a side suit. All right, let's look at example 6 at the bottom of the page. Okay, now on this one, partner opens a spade, and you have a very clear Jacoby 2 no trump bid, and partner bids 3 hearts, showing a singleton or a void in hearts. And so now the question is, okay, what do you do with that? All right, first of all, the fact that partner bid 3 hearts is good news. You were staring at a very crummy heart holding with lots of losers, and she's given you the good news that she has a singleton. So that's great. Okay. Now, does that mean that you should haul off and bid 4 no trump? I don't think so. You only have 13 points outside of hearts, 14 total. And for all you know, she has a minimum 12 because her 3 heart bid did not say anything about her strength. She could have 12 or she could have 20. So what you need to do is make a bid that asks partner's opinion. That's what a control bid does. So in this situation, you would bid 4 clubs. Why 4 clubs? Because you have a club control and it's the cheapest control bid that you have available. So you bid 4 clubs. And what that does is it opens the conversation. You're basically telling your partner, hey, the 3 heart bid you made was good news. And I think we ought to be looking at slam. What do you think? Now, if partner has a bare minimum hand and is not very excited about slam, then over 4 clubs, she can bid 4 spades to tell you that. But most of the time, she will bid either 4 diamonds or 4 hearts. She might have a singleton ace of hearts. She might have a void in hearts to justify a 4 heart bid. But most of the time, she will cooperate. And then you can decide what to do. You can either bid Blackwood if you want to, or you can bid 4 spades and leave it up to her. But what you see here is what's happening here is exchange of information, exchange of controls, and a cooperative effort towards slam. Okay.
I think there's a mistake.
Oh, where?
In the middle of page 13, it says with, you're kind of continuing the discussion, is if responder then bids 4 hearts, your partner may pass 4 hearts because she's already shown. I think it's 4 spades.
Oh, that's right. You're absolutely right. She will bid 4 spades.
Right.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
I'll make that correction. Okay. You know, when you prepare something like this, you always think you've got it right until you look at it with a microscope and then things pop up. So there's a good example of it. Okay. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over board example 7. But when you have a chance, take a look at that one because that one's important as far as control bidding. The main thing to recognize, well, let's just look at it for a second. Okay. All right. So you've got the hand there and partner opens a club. You say a spade and she raises to 2 spades. And you say, wow, I've got 17 points and I've got a king of clubs that I was wondering about, except that that's in her suit. So that's still probably a pretty good card. And partner has spade support for me. Man, this is good. I'm thinking slam. Okay, so then you try 3 diamonds to see what partner does. And lo and behold, she jumps to game. She likes her hand. Okay. Now, a lot of times what people would do at this point is they would haul off and bid 4 no trump, but there's a problem. The problem is, what about the hearts? You have 3 to the queen. What if partner doesn't have the ace or king of hearts? So you can bid Blackwood with this hand if you want to, but the better approach is to bid 5 clubs. You've got the king of her suit. And if you tell her that, that's going to be important information to her. More importantly, it gives her a chance to now make a control bid coming back. Now, if she makes a control bid in hearts, then you know you've got the problem is solved. If she bids 5 diamonds, then you're going to bid 5 spades. And now it ought to be very, very clear that the reason you control bid in the first place was you have a problem in hearts. And if she's got it solved, she can bid slam. And if she doesn't, she can stop.
Steve, question,
Uh-huh.
what if your partner had both ace of diamonds and a heart control? Would they skip over diamonds to bid hearts, or would they bid their diamond control?
Well, that's a great question, Jerry. Your partner doesn't know that the problem is hearts at this stage. When you bid 5 clubs, she just knows there's a problem someplace. It's probably hearts, but she doesn't know for sure. If she's got both of them, there's no harm in showing the ace of diamonds, because partner may want to know about the ace of diamonds. Second of all, if partner signs off and you have hearts and she has hearts controlled, she knows to continue on. So you got it coming and going in that situation. Great question. Okay. So anyway, so that was kind of a quick version. And the reason I buzzed through everything is because I prepared 3 discussion hands for us to look at. Okay, and these are hands that you haven't seen and had a chance to look at ahead of time. And so we can kind of work on them and see how to handle them. Okay, now the first thing, the thing that I notice is a real reluctance to bid or to even think about bidding grand slams. It's sort of like, yeah, you know, that's more than I can do. Okay, I'm gonna leave that to the experts. I'm just gonna, well, I'm hopeful to get you to see that there are situations where you can figure it out and you can bid a grand slam. And to me, that is fun. So let's take a look at hand number 1. Okay, now we're playing 2 over 1 and South is the dealer. So obviously South's going to open 1 heart. Now, against what I'll notice sometimes is that people will respond 1 spade with a hand like North's hand. Now, I think this is a mistake. It's got 16 points. You got plenty of points. You've got long diamonds and secondary spades. Now, one of my kind of mantras is, if you can afford to show your suits in the correct order, by correct, I mean the longest suit first, the second suit second, that kind of thing. If you have the luxury of doing that because you have enough points to do it, then by all means do that. So who knows, when North makes his first bid, diamonds could end up being trump. So who knows, maybe South has a big diamond fit and North South belong in diamonds. So there's no harm in bidding 2 diamonds. All right, so North bids 2 diamonds and lo and behold, South bids 2 spades to show her 4-card spade suit. All right, now what should North do? Now, a lot of people, consistent with what we've talked about earlier, would go flying up to 4 spades. Hey, good news, partner, we got spades and we're going to game. But we always were going to game. 2 diamonds was a 2 over 1. Game force. So there's no need to jump. Just bid 3 spades. And let's see what develops. So that's the first thing. Don't jump. Restrain yourself and say, wait a minute. I actually am thinking slam. I have 16 points and my partner is an opener and probably better than average opener. So slam is in the picture. So you just bid 3 spades, and now look what you got. You've got the whole 4 level available for potential control bids to talk about slam. All right, so now you're south, and you say, wait a minute, my partner is thinking about slam, and I have 19 points. That's pretty good. And I have a singleton king, but it's in his suit. So, wow, man, I have a good hand. So now you start with a control bid. 4 clubs. And North, no reason for North not to cooperate. He bids 4 diamonds. And now you're south and you're saying, okay, now I know he's got the ace of diamonds. Okay, now it's time to haul out key card Blackwood. So you bid 4 no trump. And partner says 5 spades. That's 2 key cards with the queen. Okay, so now you look at that and you say, okay, we've got all the key cards, we've got all the top trumps, and I'm south, and I even have the jack of trumps for good measure, just in case trumps decide to be 4-1. Okay, so now I'm going to share that good news with partner and bid 5 no trump. Okay, and partner says, I have 2 kings. And you're south and you look at that and you say, okay, he's got the king of clubs, which is not that critical to me, but he's got the king of hearts, which solidifies my suit. And so there's no losers. And you figured out that there's no losers. So you jump to 7. And there you are. And if you look at those hands, it'll be a mighty unlucky day if you don't make 7 spades with those cards. You'll have to have a 5-0 trump break and some other bad luck problem. So you want to be in 7 with a hand like that. Okay, now, if time permits, I'm going to come back to this hand. But that was the main message on that one. Okay, now hand number 2 is a super important hand. And I hope everybody can latch on to this one. You're south and you open a spade. You've got 16 points and a good 7-card spade suit. And partner surprises you by making a 2/1, 2 diamonds. Okay, now I know a lot of players that would jump with this hand. But if you look at the materials earlier, I skipped over the discussion. When you jump in a 2/1, you're basically saying, when you jump rebid, you're basically saying, my suit is trumps, period, end of sentence. And these spades are good, but they're not good enough for that. So you just bid 2 spades and you see what happens. Okay, North has an extra diamond and certainly doesn't want to be bidding no trump with 2 little clubs. So North bids 3 diamonds. So here you are at 3 diamonds. Now, here's where it gets tricky. If you're south, you still don't want to jump. You want to mention your spades again, but there's no reason to jump. You're in a game force. And if you jump, you're basically saying, I heard you, partner. And based on what you said, I just want to play 4 spades. And that would not be true of the south hand. You want to keep your options open. So you bid 3 spades. All right, now you're north. How do you like your spade holding at this stage? It's a great spade holding. All you've done is bid diamonds twice. For all partner knows, you have a void in spades and you have a doubleton ace. So you have a great spade holding and you have 3 aces and you have a roughing value. So You don't want to just bid 4 spades with a hand like this. This is a hand that you could be going somewhere depending on how good South's hand is. How do you say that? Okay, the way you say that is with a control bid, as we've been discussing. All right. Now, at this stage, where South has bid spades 3 times and North has bid diamonds twice, if North bids a control, either 4 clubs, if he had the ace of clubs, or club control, I should say, or 4 hearts with a club control, it cannot possibly be that North is trying to make that new suit trumps. That ship has sailed. If North wanted to have suggested hearts as trumps or clubs as trumps, he would have done that a long time ago. So if North bids 4 hearts here, it cannot be that he is saying, hey, do you think we ought to play 4 hearts? No, he is saying, okay, I'll go with your spades. And I have a heart control. And I don't have a club control. And I'm interested in slam, if you are. So the 4 heart bid does 2 things. It pinpoints where North's control is, side control is. And it opens the discussion about slam. It's an invitation. Partner, what do you think? Okay. Anytime in a slam possible situation, you can ask partner, what do you think? You're going to be ahead of the game, because 2 heads are better than 1. And if you're just guessing what we ought to do, you're going to guess right sometimes. But if you but you're going to guess wrong sometimes. And if you get partner involved, both of you can participate in the decision, and you're going to get it right a lot more often. So here, North over 3 spades should bid 4 hearts. And now you're South and you're saying, okay, well, wait a minute. My partner is okay with spades. And he's got a heart control. And that was my problem. And look at this lovely king of diamonds I have to fill out my partner's suit. And he doesn't have a club control, but I do. Wow. 4 no trump. Okay. And then partner's going to, if you play 14-30, he's going to bid 5 diamonds. If you play regular, he's going to bid 5 clubs, whichever you play. Okay. And you're going to know it's 0 or 3. Well, it's not 0. He wouldn't be trying for slam with 0. So it's 3. And you're looking at this and you bid 6 spades. Okay. Now that's teamwork. And that's how control bidding works. You get to talk about where your controls are. You get to talk about your opinion and a suggestion, and boom, you're there. Okay. That's that. Okay, that's that one. Now let's look at hand number 3. Okay, now hand number 3 is in some ways is kind of a bread and butter hand, but it's a fun hand. All right, so let's say you're obviously you're playing standard, and you've got 15 to 17. So North is the dealer and opens a no trump. And look at that South hand. A partner opened a no trump. So you're going to get both your suits on the table, and you start with a transfer. 2 hearts, partner bids 2 spades, and now you bid 3 hearts. 100% forcing, and you should be 5-5, because if you were 5-4, you would have used Stamen or puppet or whatever, whatever your machinery is. Okay. So now here we are at 3 hearts, game force, and it's North's bid. And what's North supposed to do? Okay, first of all, he's got to pick between the majors. In general, I'm not mean with this specific hand, I mean in general. If he's going to pick spades, he should bid 3 spades. And then let nature take its course after that. Because he doesn't know whether the 3 heart bid is just interested in game or maybe big interested in other things. So set trumps and see what happens. Now let's say North did bid 3 spades, not with this hand, but with a hand that preferred spades. If South has slam interest at this point, what is she going to do? She's going to make a control bid. Unless she can haul off and bid Blackwood. But she's going to make a control bid to say, partner, what do you think? Okay. Do you like your hand for slam with the knowledge that I have 10 cards in the majors? Or not? Okay. And if he likes his hand, he can control bid. And if he doesn't like his hand, he can bid 4 spades. Now, when we say like his hand, what do we mean? Well, okay, partner has 10 cards in the majors. What are the important cards? Okay. The important cards are the aces in the minors and any cards in the majors. The cards inside partners 2 suits, the majors, are the important cards. The cards outside that are important are the aces. The king of clubs, the queen of diamonds, the jacks in the minors. Those are meaningless in this auction. So you don't count your points. You evaluate your points. Do I have the right cards or don't I? Those are the questions you're asking yourself as North. Okay, so if North were to bid 3 spades, then that's how it would be handled. But North is obviously not going to bid 3 spades with this hand. He's going to prefer hearts. Okay, so he could just bid 4 hearts. All right, so let's say he does. Then if you're South, then you have to decide what to do. And I think you probably would use Blackwood now, but you'd have some nervousness about how good partner's hand is. Now, let me make a suggestion. Over 3 hearts, if you're North and you prefer hearts, first of all, if you like spades, remember, you're going to bid 3 spades. Okay, so if spades are going to be trump, you're going to bid spades. So now we're talking about hearts. If you bid 4 hearts, that's one thing. What if you bid as North 4 clubs or 4 diamonds? Are you trying to make diamonds or clubs trumps at this late stage? No. Partner has 10 cards in the majors. We're not going to play this hand in clubs or diamonds. So 4 clubs and 4 diamonds are not natural bids. They're control bids. In support of what? Hearts. Not spades, because if he'd bid 3 spades if he had spade. So 4 clubs. So now what you have is this. Over 3 hearts, and this is the trick. Over 3 hearts, 4 hearts by North says, well, I'll go with hearts, but I'm not excited. 4 clubs or 4 diamonds says, I'm going with hearts, and man, I like it. Now, if you're South, if you hear 4 clubs or 4 diamonds, man, you are excited, and you're going to launch into Blackwood, key card Blackwood. All right, and partner has 4 key cards. So he's going to bid 5 clubs or 5 diamonds, depending on which one, whether you play 14-30.
Steve, a question. If,
Well, Jerry, just 1 second.
okay.
All right. So now over this 5 clubs or 5 diamonds, then you don't know whether it's 1 or 4. So if you're south, you're going to bid 5 hearts to wait and see what it is. And a partner will now bid 6 hearts to say it was 4. Well, if it's 4, look at that. You've got both aces in the minors. Those are covered. The ace, king of hearts to go with, and your spades are solid. You bid 7 hearts and you're there. Okay. So that's how that works. Jerry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So rather than picking a suit by North or bidding 4 hearts, he bids 4 clubs or diamonds.
Mhm.
Does that automatically set hearts as the trump suit?
Yes. And the reason it does is because if you want to set spades, you would have, as North, you would have bid 3 spades.
Okay.
Okay. And then you'd wait to hear whether South had any slam ambitions or not. Okay. And as I said, the way South would tell you that is by bidding 4 clubs or 4 diamonds over 3 spades. Okay. But in this scenario, North likes hearts. So if he likes hearts, but his hand is nothing special, he bids 4 hearts. If his hand is good, he bids 4 clubs or 4 diamonds to say, not only am I accepting hearts, but I really like it. And that will help South make a winning decision. Okay, that answer your question, Jerry?
Yes, thank you.
The one thing, Steve, I wanted to point out about
Uh-huh.
all this, there's an auction that goes a little different than what you're covering here. You
Mhm.
know, your partner opens a club and you say a spade, and now he jumps to 4 spades. And I have a lot of partners that said, well, you bid 4, you were just shutting me out. And I said, well, no, I was showing a 20-point hand, and you've got 12, and we should explore slam. So it's a little bit different, but the jump to game as opener when your partner is only showing the 6 count is a little different than it's not preemptive. That's the point I
Oh,
wanted.
and James, what you just raised was a great point, though. Somebody opens a club, partner bids a major, and then the opener jumps to 4. What does that show? Okay, it is not a shutout bid by any stretch of the imagination. It's a descriptive bid, just as you said. It ideally is about 19 points with no singleton or void and 4 trumps. Okay. Now that's what it shows. And so it's not most of the time responder will pass, but it's not a drop dead bid the way some bids are. All right. If you have a singleton or a void, you make you force the game, but you do it by making a splinter bid to show your shortness. I have a big hand. I have a singleton or a void in the suit I'm about to show, and we may belong in slam that way.
I just wanted to point that one out because I get dropped at 4 with partner
Yes.
having a 12 or 13 count. And well, I was showing enough
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
bid game opposite your 6, but you've got 13.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And that's all that goes to is having your agreements, lined up so that you know that that 4 spade bid is not a preempt. That is a highly descriptive, powerful bid. And you go from there. Okay, we got a couple minutes maybe for a question or two, and then people got to go to the bridge studio.
All right. I saw there were a couple of questions in the chat, so if you didn't get your question answered in the chat, please say it now. I think Simone may have a leftover question.
Oh, okay. Simone?
Well, Steve.
Well, maybe not.
Regarding bidding, when your partner opens table 1 and then there's inquiry about going to slam. And I'm the partner of the bidder. a misconception I think I've had all along is that if I have an aceless hand, I have no business inquiring about slam. But that's a misconception, right?
I think I would call it a misconception. Now, certainly, if you don't have any aces, that's a factor to consider in whether to express slam interest in the first place. But if you have a really good hand except for the aces and partner opened, or even perhaps showed extra values, then there's a pretty good chance she's going to have 3 aces for you. So you can keep going. And of course, Blackwood, at some point, Blackwood's going to help you figure out if you're short the aces, but I wouldn't rule it out just because you don't have any aces. It's just a factor. Now, I see a question here. I can't see the whole question from Jeannie or Jenny.
Says in the second discussion hand, why did you bid hearts instead of 4 diamonds?
Second discussion hand, why did I bid hearts? Oh, because you already bid and rebid diamonds, so it's presumed that you have a diamond control. You don't really need to show it again. And the important thing is to show a different control. That's a great question.
Yes,
But
okay.
You don't really need, if you bid 4 diamonds. The other thing is, if you bid 4 diamonds, it sounds like you're trying to still make diamonds trump. Whereas if you bid something new, it's obvious that you're not trying to make that suit trump. So, I mean, I think if I'm south, I'm within my rights to think that north has a diamond control, having bid 2 diamonds and then 3 diamonds. And so what I really want to know is, does he have a control somewhere else? Really good question.
Okay, and Simone's leftover question, Simone doesn't have a microphone, so her
Okay.
leftover question is on the first discussion hand, why would you not bid your heart control along the way and let your partner ask for aces? Instead of jumping up and asking for aces, as you said.
Oh, why would you? Oh, well, at some point, I mean, you want south to bid 4 hearts over 4 diamonds, I guess. I mean, that would be, I get, that would be all right. But the thing the thing we didn't get a chance to cover, and I'm going to cover in the notes, in the final notes when you see this, is you have a chance to ask, use specific king ask to find out if north has the king of hearts, which is the critical card on this hand. And so if I'm south, once the partner bids 4 diamonds, I'm launching into Blackwood because I know I'm going to come to a question about specific kings eventually.
Okay. All right, and then the final question from Simone, who still doesn't have a microphone, is on hand 3, why not try Texas transfer to spades and then for no trump to get to a spade slam?
Because you don't know that you belong in spades.
Okay,
When you use a Texas transfer, you are 100% sure that the suit you're transferring to is going to be the trump suit.
okay,
Here, you don't know that.
okay.
Now, it works out on this hand because partner has the jack of spades, but what if partner had 2 little spades?
Okay,
Okay, good questions. All right, I'm going to spruce up these notes. I'm going to send them to Beth, and then she'll send out a revised version that everybody can have.
yes.
And that'll take care of that.
And the recording will magically appear on YouTube.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
We really
Steve.
appreciate it. A lot of great information.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, appreciate it. Everybody have a good one.